Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. Today is the auction of the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce. If you too want to talk about business, why don't we do it another day? The auction is about to begin, so don't miss out on the good stuff. The atmosphere in front of Xiao Minghui was awkward. A fight was about to break out, so Xiao Minghui hurriedly came out to smooth things over. Alright, we'll talk about it after the auction is over for Sect Master Zhao's sake. Tiandijuan nodded. The aura on his body gradually retracted back into his body, and his state of mind gradually calmed down. Yunxiao did not bother to continue bickering with him, but he was laughing in his heart. He could already see a large amount of primeval stones rolling in. Although the lightning transformation divine technique was extremely wondrous, he didn't mind teaching it to others. Moreover, this thing originally belonged to the Big Dipper sect. As for the treasure map, he still didn't know what was hidden in it. Since it had already been taken by someone before him once, or even twice, there probably wouldn't be anything good left. If it could be exchanged for a large number of primordial stones, he would be very happy to. 50 billion medial-grade primordial stones, together with the ones provided by the Purple Cloud Trade Union and the ones he had plundered from Mo Huayuan, were enough to support his cultivation and breakthrough to the Martial Emperor realm, or even higher. After a brief silence in the room, the auction finally began. The crowd looked over and saw an old man with his hands behind his back standing on the ring in front of them. He was in high spirits and looked like an immortal. This man was the president of the Sky Crane Business Council, Fang Tianhe. Under everyone's gaze, he smiled proudly and said, "I'm sure many people will be surprised by the auction today. I've been entrusted by President Gao Lin to host this auction. The auction item is very simple. There's only one thing, and that's the recording needle." A recording needle? The people below immediately became restless, and all kinds of discussions broke out. Everyone was whispering to each other, and everyone was guessing. Xiao Minghui smiled and said, "This is interesting. I wonder where the needle is pointing to. It actually requires a huge auction." Everyone had the same thought. The recording needle was actually a very simple tool. However, it contained spatial power, and once it pointed to a spatial coordinate, no matter where you were, the pointer would point to the established coordinate. It was usually used for marking and had no valuable use. What kind of recording needle is worth auctioning? Could it be the newly discovered Southern Fire Golden Crystal Mine? A man couldn't help but shout. Another man immediately retorted, "If it's a mineral, wouldn't the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce dig it themselves? What's the point of slapping it?" Fang Tianhe smiled and said, "This friend is right. It is a mine." What? Auctioning off the mineral resources? This time, everyone was shocked. Mineral resources were basically the gathering point of conflicts between various forces. They were extremely precious. Any mineral resource could only be obtained by sprinkling a large amount of martial artists' blood. Who would be so stupid as to take it out for auction? Tiandijuan and Xiao Minghui's faces changed. The mountains around South Fire City had long been divided up by the major forces. It would be fine if the ore source that the other party was auctioning was the mining area of the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce. However, if it was the mining area of a local force, it would be a complete war. Everyone, please calm down. This auction is not only about the mineral resources. According to our speculations, there is also a large amount of Southern Fire Golden Crystal Essence. Fang Tianhe's words suddenly caused the mood of the entire auction house to completely explode. All of a sudden, everyone stood up in shock. Southern Fire Golden Crystal Source? I didn't hear wrong? Even a Southern Fire Golden Crystal mine might not be able to contain such a thing. What's going on? Why didn't they excavate the mine? Is the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce that short of money? I understand now. Zhang Linghua's advancement to the rank of a Marshal Supreme has put pressure on the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce. They want to leave South Fire City, so they've thrown away all the mineral resources they have. It can't be. As one of the 7 executive members of the Merchant Union, the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce must have a martial emperor in their headquarters. Why can't they send 1 or 2 here? Send 1 or 2. Do you think martial emperors are cabbages planted by your family, with hundreds of them in 1 mu of land? Then what's going on? It can't be that they're auctioning off the mineral resources of other forces, right? Isn't that a sign of war? It was already a mess below. In a few big boxes, there were many people from local forces gathered. All of them looked serious and murderous. Everyone seemed to smell the strong smell of gunpowder and began to gradually calm down. The entire auction house was like a bomb, as if it would explode at any time. The person in charge of the Sky Scorpion sect was the deputy sect leader, Chu Zhiming. He opened the jade silk fan in his hand and gently waved it. He pretended to be relaxed, but his expression was extremely serious. Vice sect leader, it seems that Fang Tianhe is going to auction our local mine. What should we do? An elder beside him said in a deep voice. No hurry. Let's check out the Big Dipper sect's movements first. Sun Jiming said with a grave tone. We don't need to be the first to take action, we just need to wait for the opportunity. After Zhang Linghua broke through to the martial supreme realm, the local forces had already subconsciously taken the Big Dipper sect as their leader. Fang Tianhe felt the solemnness of the whole place and said with a smile, everyone is thinking too much. The mineral veins around South Fire City have long been divided. No matter how much the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce and my Sky Crane Chamber of Commerce dare to offend the world, they won't dare to rashly auction off other people's mineral resources. Also, everyone has misunderstood. We're only auctioning the recording needle. That our source is from an ownerless land. Land without an owner? All the ore veins in the surroundings have long been divided up, so there's no land without an owner. The unowned lands, could it be? Could it be the dead land? This time everyone's expression changed. In the private room, Tan Dijuan suddenly slammed his palm on the table, shattering the Nanma wood into pieces. The wood chips rolled around, and the chi in his palm was surging. It was obvious that he was extremely shocked. Why are you so excited, Sect Master Tan? Xiao Minghui asked in surprise. That dead land was originally an uninhabited land, and its resources were dried up. It had long been investigated by the major forces, and there was nothing there. That was why it was listed separately when it was divided, and no one wanted it. I've not imagined that Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce could find mineral resources in that place. But why don't they excavate it themselves? Yunxiao knew why Dijuan Tan was so angry. The place recorded on the treasure map was in the Dead Land, and Dijuan Tan had once found the source of Southern Fire golden crystal in that place. Sure enough, Fang Tianhe said, the source of the mine is inside the Dead Land. The Land of Death is extremely dangerous, but it's nothing to the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce, a man said loudly. You have enough power to mine for it, and it's a land without an owner, so you should be mining it in secret. Why do you make it so convenient for others? This is a trade secret. I can't tell you. Fang Tian, he said with a mysterious smile, we have already confirmed that there is a Southern Fire golden crystal essence in it. However, it's just a mayfly. There is a great risk in it. After discussion with many leaders of our Chamber of Commerce, we feel that it is too risky to mine it. Therefore, we have announced this matter and recorded the auction of the pointer. Anyone with the ability can get it. I see. However, even your Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce doesn't dare to mine it. If we go there, won't we just be courting death? A local martial artist said angrily, I'm afraid your goal is to use us as cannon fodder and open up a path for you. The rest of the people were awakened by his words and revealed expressions of understanding. Fang Tianhe said coldly, if it wasn't too dangerous, would we give up such a good opportunity? I've given you a chance, but it's up to you to decide if you want it or not. Wealth was obtained from danger, and the greater the risk, the greater the benefits. As for opening the way for us, isn't that a joke? Everyone knows the current situation, and everyone's opportunities are equal, so how can you say that they're cannon fodder? Do you want our Chamber of Commerce to pave the way for you and be your cannon fodder? Is that reasonable? His words immediately made the local forces speechless. It was indeed the case. Everyone had equal opportunities, and no one forced them to go or not. Humph. The man snorted coldly again. How would I know the mineral content of your ore source and how dangerous it is? Also, who can guarantee that I'll believe what you said? If it's just a trap to lure everyone over and you kill them, what should we do? Fang Tianhe's eyes were full of killing intent as he said angrily, the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce and the Sky Crane Chamber of Commerce have great reputations. When have they ever sold fake news? As for trash like you, it doesn't make much of a difference whether you go or not. Even if the danger level is low, it's still a fatal danger for trash like you. The cultivator's face was red with shame and anger, and the crowd's hearts calmed down a little. Although the Chamber of Commerce and the local forces were constantly fighting, their reputation was indeed good, and they would never lie to their customers. Fang Tianhe saw that everyone's doubts were gradually solved, and then he said, there are a total of 300 recording needles in this auction, and every 10 will be sold in a package. There was a natural illusion in the Deadland, and one could not leave without a recording needle. Don't dream of having several people using the same needle. After entering the illusionary realm, everyone will be alone, and it's impossible to share the needle. His words immediately shattered the thoughts of some rogue cultivators who were planning to work together to obtain a few treasures, and many of them began to frown. 300 needles. Other than the internal members of the Chamber of Commerce, there were only 300 places for the outside world. It was estimated that all of them would be divided up by the big sects. Jin Xian, who was in the private room, had a gloomy face and did not say a word. She didn't know anything about these things, which meant that the Purple Cloud Trade Union had been completely excluded from these trade unions. Both her and Wu Chen's faces were extremely ugly. Tan Dijuan looked at Yunxiao with a profound look, his eyes full of inquiry. He was a little confused now. He didn't know if the mineral source discovered by the Chamber of Commerce was related to the treasure map passed down by the North Scorpion sect. If it was, he would be in big trouble. Yunxiao shook his head slightly, as he was even more confused. After a moment of silence, he sent a secret voice transmission to Dijuan Tan and said, let's take a picture of the needle first. If the direction is exactly the same as the one on the map, we'll make our move early. Even if there is a Southern Fire golden crystal essence, this kind of thing requires several thousand years of nurturing in the Southern Fire golden crystal mine to produce a small amount. Even if there is a lot, we will only send a few of us to sneak in and see the situation. If we can't obtain it even with the strength of a few experts, then no matter how many of us there are, we will still be unable to obtain it. Tan Dijuan's heart moved, and he said, yes, that should be the case. He felt a little more at ease, but the look on his face grew more solemn. Yunxiao was both intelligent and powerful, which made him more and more confused. He suddenly felt that dealing with Yunxiao was much more troublesome and difficult than dealing with the treasure. Fang Tian he ordered people to push a huge rotating wooden shelf to the center of the auction house. Immediately, a pile of recording needles appeared in front of everyone. There were 10 of them in a pile, and all of them pointed to the south. These 300 recording needles have all been made to record permanently, so you don't have to worry about them being changed or the records disappearing. The auction will start now. There are 30 sets in total. The starting price of each set is 100 million medial-grade primordial stones, and each increment must not be less than 10 million medial-grade primordial stones. With a wave of his hand, a beautiful maidservant appeared in front of everyone, dragging a set of hands. Let the first group of auction begin. Fang Tianhe said. Motherfucker. 100 million for a stack, why don't you all just die? When many people heard the price, they all started cursing. Not everyone was a nouveau riche like Yunxiao, who could easily offer a price of billions or tens of billions. Most of the martial artists were still stuck at the level where they only had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even a few million in liquid funds. Such a high price had almost directly denied the participation of those loser martial artists, and many people began to curse. Fang Tian he coldly snorted, the Southern Fire golden crystal source is such a valuable item. You want to fight for an opportunity without spending some blood? In his dreams. This kind of thing is not something that you poor country bumpkins can covet. What he said was indeed the truth, and everyone understood that. However, it was still difficult for them to accept it emotionally, and the curses became even more intense. Fang Tianhe turned a deaf ear and stood alone in the middle proudly, his eyes full of ridicule. The recording needle that cost only 1,000 medial-grade primordial stones was sold at the sky-high price of 10 million each. This money is so easy to earn. I'm so excited that I want to open a chamber of commerce. Xiao Minghui sighed softly and said with a smile. However, there was no smile in his eyes. Instead, they were as clear as water. Tandijuan said, "This is only the base price. I don't know what the final price will be. The Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce is really good at planning. Not only did they gather people to open the way for them, but they also made a fortune without any risk." "I have an idea," Yunxiao said with a smile. "I can make them unable to sell a single needle." "Oh?" Everyone was curious. Mo Huayuan asked curiously, "What is it?" "I'll need Sect Master Tan's cooperation," Yunxiao said with a smile. Tandijuan didn't know what he was up to, so he just nodded slightly. As long as the Chamber of Commerce could suffer a loss, he would even kill them, let alone cooperate with them. Yunxiao took a light breath and spat out a mouthful of vital essence. His voice was like a thunderclap that exploded in the horse-riding hall. "The Big Dipper sect thinks your price is too high. Since it's an ownerless item of Manhwa City, it should belong to everyone. The Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce and the Sky Crane Chamber of Commerce actually used public property to auction it. These 300 needles will be a token of apology to everyone. As for the punishment, we will decide after the mine is opened." "What?" When this voice rang out, everyone was shocked. Even Tandijuan and the other members of the Big Dipper sect in the room were shocked and glared at him. "How dare you use the Big Dipper sect's name to stir up trouble?" An elder stepped forward and said angrily. "You're clearly trying to drag the war between us and the Chamber of Commerce down." Tandijuan's face darkened as well. After hearing Yunxiao's words, he could not take it back now, and he would appear weak and afraid of trouble. He could not take it back either, because he was obviously going to war with the other party. "Don't panic," Yunxiao chuckled. "The Big Dipper sect is now at the peak of its power. Let's wait and see how the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce will react." "Reaction?" the elder asked angrily. "What reaction can they have? Of course, they'll rush up and hack us to death." Yunxiao looked over with a cold gaze and said, "Be quiet, this is your vice sect leader's decision, it's not your place to make a fuss." "You coward." The elder was furious. If not for the special environment, he would have gone up and slapped Yunxiao to death. Tandijuan held his breath and stopped the elder. "I'll leave it to you to handle. But if you screw it up, don't blame me for falling out with you." Yunxiao smiled faintly and said nothing. At this moment, a martial emperor had emerged in the Big Dipper sect, and he was like the sun in the sky. He was very clear about the fact that everyone under the Emperor Qi of the Nine Heavens was an ant. Other people might not know this, but the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce definitely knew it. Therefore, no matter how much pressure they were under, they would never turn against each other and court death. Not everyone was as freakish as Yunxiao. They would only stand a chance if the headquarters sent a martial emperor. Yunxiao's shout silenced the entire hall for a moment. Fang Tianhe and the people of the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce behind the scene all widened their eyes and were dumbfounded. This kind of public provocation had not appeared for many years after the two forces had stopped fighting. For a time, they were stunned and did not know how to deal with it. Fang Tianhe said angrily, "An atonement item? As for the punishment? Isn't your Big Dipper sect too arrogant? They don't even put the dozens of chambers of commerce in our South Fire City in their eyes." "Has never taken you seriously," Yunxiao said with a smile. "And you think you're all that?" The entire venue burst into laughter. Originally, there were many people from the local forces, and most of them were some loser-level individual martial artists. This time, they followed the jeers, and the strange cries continued. Fang Tianhe's face was livid with anger, and he stood in the middle of the stage with shame and anger. "Well said. Ownerless things are shared by everyone. You outsiders actually dare to explore and exploit it without permission. What crime should you be punished for? Let's not talk about the crime for now. The Big Dipper sect has already spoken. First, hand over the recording needle, and we'll determine their crimes after everyone has gone to investigate. Not bad, not bad. The Big Dipper sect's lord is truly wise, worthy of being the leader of our Southfire city. I agree with the Big Dipper sect's decision. Hurry up and hand over the recording needle. We'll wait for everyone's judgment. Shouts rang out one after another. At first, there were only a few scattered martial artists shouting, but later, it became a large number of shouts. All of them were full of righteousness and anger. They firmly believed that the Chamber of Commerce had infringed on everyone's interests and demanded an explanation from the Chamber of Commerce. Fang Tianhe roared, "Good, good, good. Your Big Dipper sect is really good. Since you didn't hesitate to turn it over, then let's do it." Before he could finish, a stern voice interrupted him. Is this sect leader Zhang's original intention? Is this how he taught you to be human? A figure flashed in the air, and there was one more person on the central auction stage. It was Gao Lin, who also had an angry face, but there was a trace of panic in his eyes, not full of anger like Fang Tianhe. Fang Tianhe's words just now seemed to be threatening to start a war, which scared Gao Lin, who was at the back, so much that he couldn't sit still anymore. He hurriedly shouted and interrupted. Moreover, he had to come forward since Fang Tianhe had slapped him in the face. As Yunxiao thought, Fang Tianhe's level was too low, and he had never come into contact with a martial supreme, so he naturally did not know how terrifying a martial supreme was. However, Ying Lin was different. He was an expert at the peak of the martial honor realm and was only one step away from the martial supreme realm. However, that step was like the edge of the world and was a chasm that was difficult to cross. If a war really broke out, the Chamber of Commerce would definitely be destroyed without any external help. Hence, his eyes could not help but reveal panic. If this was Zhang Linghua's deliberate provocation, then the entire situation in Southfire City would be terrible. As a result, as soon as Gao Lin appeared, he immediately asked who was behind this. If it was just the wishes of these brainless Big Dipper sect members, then there was no need to worry at all. As for the shouts and the righteous warriors who demanded an explanation, they were completely ignored by Ying Lin. As long as the Big Dipper sect's attitude was clear, this motley crowd could be taken care of in minutes. Yunxiao understood Gao Lin's concern as soon as he heard his words. Does the Big Dipper sect need you to teach it how to conduct itself? Qianlin, do you also want to teach our sect leader Zhang how to behave? Gao Lin's expression changed. Although he really wanted to, he didn't dare to say it out loud. He said angrily, "Who are you? What are you trying to do by destroying the relationship between our Chamber of Commerce and the local forces?" Yunxiao chuckled. "What's my intention? It's your Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce who has destroyed the relationship between the two forces. You've exploited the shared resources in private, and now you want to ask for money for directions. You're really despicable. You can ask everyone here whether their hearts are on your Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce's side or on our Big Dipper sect's. The Big Dipper sect. The Big Dipper sect. The Big Dipper sect." For a time, the prestige shook the sky. The more people cheered, the more excited they became. That voice completely drowned out Gao Lin and Fang Tianhe. The two of them stood on the central auction stage, their faces extremely ugly. Fang Tianhe secretly transmitted a message, "President Qian, the situation is so bad now. The Big Dipper sect is so aggressive. We must not be weak. Otherwise, it will be more difficult to be strong in the future." Ying Lin glared at him and angrily said, "Do I need you to say this? But how strong? The enemy's martial emperor is here, and he can kill you and me with one palm." Zhang Linghua. Fang Tianhe was stunned for a moment and said, "Can you report the situation here to the headquarters as soon as possible and send experts to eliminate Zhang Linghua?" Gao Lin shook his head slightly and said, "At this moment, the two meetings are imminent. The experts from the headquarters have all gone to various parts of the continent to hold down the fort. They have no time to come to a small place like Southfire City. No matter what, we have to endure it for a while. As long as the position of the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce is stable, it will be the time to deal with these dregs. We must endure it now. Fang Tianhe's face changed slightly. Since Gao Lin had said so, then he must be a coward. He gritted his teeth and stared at the curtain of the private room with an ashen face, as if he wanted to see through it and see the person who was stirring up trouble inside. Yunxiao stood up in the box and pressed 2 fingers between his eyebrows. The space twisted slightly, and he immediately teleported out. In the next moment, he appeared on the spinning shelf full of record pointers and picked up a set. No one had seen how this person had appeared until he took the recording needle. This caused everyone to be shocked and look over in horror. Ying Lin and Fang Tianhe were startled, and they exclaimed in unison, "It's you." Yunxiao had left a deep impression on everyone when he made a big scene in the Big Dipper sect and retreated with composure. In addition to the recent search in Lian City, he had become the most popular figure in Manhua City. As soon as he appeared, not only was Gao Lin and Fang Tianhe shocked, but all the martial artists in the field were also silent. The noisy market suddenly became as quiet as a ghost city, without a trace of sound. After taking off a set of recording needles, Yunxiao suddenly turned around and said with a smile, "Since you're not willing to hand over the needle, we'll have to take it ourselves." "So it's you who's stirring up trouble?" yelled Gao Lin angrily. "I'm going to kill you." His figure flickered as the power of a peak martial venerable pressed down from the sky. He suddenly appeared next to Yunxiao and thrust his palm at him. He only wanted to kill the other party in one blow to intimidate the thieves. However, he was afraid that the power would be too great and destroy the entire auction hall, so he used 30% of his palm power and estimated that it was enough. TSK. Even Zhang Linghua couldn't stop me, so how can you? A beam of light shot out from between Yunxiao's eyebrows, and a golden ball rolled out in the air, revealing its head and limbs. It was none other than the Calabash King Kong. It spread its body in the air and threw out a punch. What is this? A puppet. Ying Lin's pupils shrank, and he didn't have time to think anymore. He hit the Calabash Little King Kong's fist wind with his palm, and a black hole appeared between the two forces. Ying Lin's face paled in shock. The wind from his opponent's attack had actually penetrated his palm, causing his arm to go numb and almost lose all feeling. The gourd Little King Kong didn't seem to be affected much. Instead, it took a step forward and passed through the black hole crack directly. The huge tearing force raged on his body, but it only left some faint scratches. What the hell is this thing? Ying Lin's shock couldn't be any greater. Even he didn't dare to resist the tearing force of the black hole with his body. The other party actually crossed over as if he had not heard anything, followed by another punch. Under the power of the fist, all the martial artists in the field felt a great pressure, and their expressions changed one after another. In his shock, Ying Lin didn't dare to use his numb right hand. Instead, he used his left hand to perform a sword technique and pointed a finger in the air with 70% of his strength. The space was directly cut open by the finger force and fell from the sky. Bang! The finger force pierced through the gourd Little King Kong's Vajra fist and shook the tip of his fist, making it a zhizhi sound. The gourd Little King Kong was directly sent flying back. As for Gao Lin, he was also sad that the wind from the opponent's fist had forced him to retreat several steps, and his eyes were filled with horror. The power of his finger was 70% of the power of a martial honor at the peak. Even a 7th-tier profound armament would have been destroyed on the spot, let alone a puppet. However, the tip of his opponent's fist only left a faint scratch. Just as the Calabash Little King Kong forced Gao Lin back, Fang Tianhe suddenly made his move, and his target was Yunxiao. He followed closely behind Yunxiao, his aura expanding to the extreme as he tried to suppress the latter. Yunxiao smiled contemptuously as he stretched out his right hand and condensed a gust of strong wind above his palm, which spun slowly. Under the control of his soul power, the wind suddenly elongated, then turned into a sword in his hand and slashed out. Sword technique star destruction. The sword radiance formed by the immemorial astral wind instantly sliced through the void and howled. Fang Tianhe was shocked. The overbearing elemental power on the sword light was surging with a terrifying aura, which made him feel weak and afraid to resist. The sword aura formed by the wind element regarded his territory as a thin piece of paper and easily cut it open. Fang Tianhe's heart sank. A yellow light appeared in his hand and condensed into a long spear. He roared and stabbed at the sword light with all his strength. A white light spread on the spear body with amazing power. Boom. After all, Yunxiao was too weak, and the sword beam was shattered by the spear. Yunxiao was sent spinning in the air by the great backlash. At that moment, the Calabash King Kong had also flown back. He pointed his right hand at it and put it back into his glabella. Fang Tianhe's face was not good. The sword light was scattered, but the immemorial astral wind rotated around the spear body and did not dissipate. It went down from the spear and sword, like sandpaper grinding, making a teeth-aching sound and blowing away the white light on the spear body. Fang Tianhe was shocked and hurriedly poured his yuan qi into the spear body, struggling to resist the elemental corrosion of the astral wind. At this moment, everyone in the arena sucked in a cold breath and looked at each other in shock. Those who had seen Yunxiao fight at the Big Dipper sect that day were fine, but the rest only heard that he had escaped from the hands of a martial emperor. At first, they did not believe it and thought it was just a rumor, but now, seeing that he had forced back two famous martial venerables at the same time, they were shocked and no longer had any doubts. Since young Master Yun has taken the lead to take a share, my Big Dipper sect can only take the opportunity to benefit from it. Tandijuan's laughter rang out as the power of his domain descended between Yunxiao and Yinglin. Although Yunxiao's strength was freakish, it was not at the level where he could compete with a martial honor. Tandijuan knew this very well, and he was afraid that the two men would hurt Yunxiao again, so he made his move. Besides, he was in a very good mood at the moment. Yunxiao had shown up, and if the matter got out of hand, he could push all the blame to Yunxiao. Now, it was the Big Dipper sect who was in the limelight and gathering people's hearts. The crowd only saw a cloud of mist appear on the auction stage, and then the rotating shelf was smashed by a man with a goatee. More than 20 sets of records were scattered, turning into more than 200 individual records that flew towards the crowd. Tandijuan, you're a coward. Gao Lin was extremely furious, but the sky was filled with light, and the needle had already scattered. All of the martial artists immediately began to fight over it, and the entire auction hall was in chaos, but there was still no way to reverse the situation. His face was livid with anger as he glared at Tandijuan and Yunxiao and said through gritted teeth, "Is this Zhang Linghua's idea?" Tandijuan laughed, "It's just a small matter. My senior brother doesn't need to do it. Thank you for pointing the needle, I'm still in a hurry to find the treasure. Young Master Yun, let's go." He flew up into the sky and turned into a huge ray of light, piercing a huge hole in the sky of the auction house, and the sun shone down. Gao Lin trembled in anger, his killing intent rising, but he was helpless. The entire auction house was in chaos. All the martial artists were fighting for the recording needle and had destroyed the entire place. Unless he killed them all now, it was obviously impossible. The Big Dipper sect's disciples in the box also followed. Jin Xian turned her head in the air and looked at Yunxiao as she said, "Young Master Yun, what are you doing?" "You guys go first," Yunxiao said with a smile. "I'll be right behind you." He flew into the box, and the people of the New Moon sect also went to grab the recording needle, leaving only Mo Huayuan and the people from the Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce. "Master Yunxiao," Mo Huayuan said worriedly, "you're really good at causing trouble. You've completely offended the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce. If this matter were to be spread to the headquarters, I'm afraid that they would pursue you to the ends of the earth." Yunxiao chuckled. "I'll say the same thing again. If Zhu Qishui has an opinion, I'll go to his door and have a good talk with him some other day." Mo Huayuan was speechless. He did not know where Yunxiao's arrogance came from. "I'm going to look for the Southern Fire Golden Crystal Source Mine," Yunxiao said. "What do you two think?" "It's not convenient for me to get involved in this matter," Mo Huayuan said. "Master Yunxiao, please be careful." He had the intention to go back, not wanting to be involved in this kind of boring dispute. "I would like to go with you, young Master Yun," Jin Xian said after some thought. Wu Chen was shocked and said, "President, you can't. It's too dangerous. The Purple Cloud Trade Union is in a crisis now, and will have to rely on you to make the plans." It's fine, Jin Xian said. With young Master Yun's recipes, the Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce is now invincible. During this period of time, the recipe had already been sent back to the headquarters through the 1,000-mile communication technique. They had also received confirmation that the recipe would be enough to defeat the Sky Crane Trading Company in terms of cost and quality. This trip must be very dangerous, Yunxiao said in surprise. I'm not very strong, but I can still escape. I may be weak, but I won't be a burden to you, young Master Yun, Jin Xian said with a smile. Don't worry. Yunxiao nodded and said, all right. Although you only look like a 6-stars martial emperor on the surface, I can sense that your true strength is definitely more than this. But be careful. Young Master Yun will be in charge of everything, Jin Xian said. Yunxiao took out a recording needle and threw it to Han Xian. The two of them immediately turned into beams of light and flew out of the broken sky, heading south.